The waiter's eyes widened as the glass of red wine tipped, its contents spreading across the white tablecloth like a crimson tide. But that wasn't what made my heart stop. It was the look of pure disgust on my date's face when I mentioned my 5-year-old daughter was the center of my world. "I should have known," she muttered, gathering her purse. "Single dads are always looking for a replacement mommy." As she stormed out, leaving me with the bill and a stain spreading across the table, I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. "That table looks like a crime scene," said a voice behind me. "Why don't you sit here instead?" If you've ever felt like giving up on love or second chances, this story might just change your mind. Hit that like button and subscribe to see more real-life stories that remind us all that sometimes, the universe has better plans than we could ever imagine. My name is Daniel Reeves, and at 34, I'd become an expert at microwave dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, princess hairstyles, and cleaning grape juice from beige carpets. What I hadn't mastered was dating as a single father. "Daddy, why do you look so fancy?" Lily had asked earlier that evening, her small fingers reaching up to straighten my tie with the serious concentration only a 5-year-old could muster. "Remember Mrs. Garcia from next door is staying with you tonight while Daddy goes to dinner?" I reminded her, kneeling to her level. "With a lady?" Her eyes widened with the innocent curiosity that always made my heart ache. Since losing her mother to cancer 3 years ago, Lily had been my entire world. I'd put dating on hold, focusing instead on creating stability for my daughter. But lately, the loneliness had become a physical presence in our home, a third entity that followed me from room to room after Lily went to bed. "Yes, with a lady," I answered, tickling her sides until she giggled. "But you'll always be my best girl." Mrs. Garcia, a retired kindergarten teacher with silver hair and endless patience, shooed me out the door. "Go. Have fun. It's about time you remembered you're not just a father." The restaurant was upscale, white tablecloths, ambient lighting, and prices that made me wince. Melissa, my date, had chosen it. We'd matched on a dating app where I'd reluctantly created a profile after my sister's persistent encouragement. Melissa's profile had mentioned she loved children, which seemed promising. I arrived early, nervously adjusting my watch and rehearsing conversation starters that didn't involve Disney princesses or the proper technique for removing bubblegum from hair. When Melissa walked in, I felt a flicker of hope. She was beautiful in a polished way, with a confident stride and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The first 10 minutes went smoothly, pleasantries about the weather, compliments on her dress, comments about the wine selection. Then came the inevitable question. "So, what do you do for fun?" she asked, sipping her wine. "Well, lately most of my free time revolves around my daughter," I said, feeling the familiar warmth that came with talking about Lily. "She's 5 and into everything, ballet, finger painting, collecting rocks that she's convinced are dinosaur eggs." Something shifted in Melissa's expression. "Oh. Your profile mentioned you had a child, but I thought maybe it was just occasional custody." "No, she lives with me full-time. Her mother passed away when she was 2. Melissa's smile tightened. "That must be challenging." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak about Sarah's death without emotion clouding my voice. 3 years hadn't dulled the pain of watching my wife fade away, leaving me to raise our daughter alone. "So, do you ever get to do adult things?" Melissa asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. I try to balance. My sister helps out sometimes, and... "Let me guess," she interrupted, "your life is all princess movies and early bedtimes?" I felt a defensive heat rise in my chest. Being a parent doesn't mean I've stopped being a person. It just means my priorities have shifted. "Right." She took another sip of wine. "And what about the woman you date? What role do you expect her to play?" The question caught me off guard. I don't have expectations beyond finding someone who understands that Lily and I are a package deal. "So you are looking for a replacement mother?" Her voice had an edge that made me uncomfortable. "That's not what I said at all. I'm looking for a partner for me who also understands that my daughter will always be part of my life. Melissa leaned forward, lowering her voice. Look, I've dated single dads before. It always ends the same way. You want someone to help with the kid, but you're still hung up on your ex, or in your case, your late wife. The accusation stung like a physical blow. That's unfair. You don't know anything about me or my relationship with Sarah. I know enough, she said, reaching for her wine glass. I know that. Her gesture was too abrupt, and the glass tipped, sending red wine cascading across the white tablecloth and onto my lap. I jumped up, napkin in hand, but the damage was done. Melissa didn't apologize. Instead, she stood, gathering her purse. This was a mistake. I'm not interested in being someone's second choice or instant mommy. You should be upfront about what you're really looking for. I thought I was, I said quietly, aware of nearby diners watching our exchange. Well, good luck finding someone willing to take on your baggage, she said, the word baggage cutting through me like a knife. My daughter was not baggage. She was the best part of my life. As Melissa walked away, I sat back down, staring at the ruined tablecloth. The waiter approached with a sympathetic expression, offering to help clean up. I apologized, embarrassed and defeated. That's when I felt the tap on my shoulder. That table looks like a crime scene, said a warm voice behind me. Why don't you sit here instead? I turned to find a woman at the next table gesturing to the empty seat across from her. She had curly hair pulled into a messy bun, glasses perched on her nose, and a kind smile that reached her eyes. I'm not looking for pity, I said, more sharply than intended. Good, because I'm not offering any, she replied easily. I'm offering a clean tablecloth and the chance to salvage what's left of the evening. Plus, I ordered way too much food for one person. I hesitated, then nodded to the waiter who seemed relieved to have a solution to the wine-soaked disaster. As I moved to the woman's table, she extended her hand. I'm Grace, she said. And for the record, I think anyone who considers a child baggage isn't worth your time anyway. Daniel, I replied, taking her hand. And thank you. Not just for the seat, but for that. Grace shrugged. I couldn't help overhearing. Occupational hazard, I'm a family therapist. So you're professionally qualified to judge my terrible date? I managed a small smile. Absolutely. And I'm giving it 2 thumbs down. She pushed a plate of appetizers toward me. Bruschetta? Something about Grace's straightforward manner put me at ease. There was no pretense, no carefully constructed image like I'd sensed with Melissa. Just an honest offer of company and food. So, she said after I'd taken a piece, tell me about your daughter. I paused, waiting for the trap. You really want to know? I wouldn't ask if I didn't. Her eyes were steady, curious. So I told her about Lily, her obsession with space, her collection of mismatched socks, her serious discussions with her stuffed animals. I told her how Lily had helped me survive after Sarah died, giving me a reason to get out of bed each morning. I even showed her the picture in my wallet, Lily missing her front teeth, grinning widely on her first day of kindergarten. Grace listened, really listened, asking questions that showed she was engaged. When our entrees arrived, she insisted on sharing her order of pasta and adding another dish. The conversation flowed naturally to her work with children, her love of obscure documentaries, and her disastrous attempt at growing herbs on her apartment balcony. Everything died except the mint, she admitted. And now I can't get rid of it. It's like the plant version of a horror movie villain, it just keeps coming back. I laughed, realizing it was the first genuine laugh I'd had in a long time with someone who wasn't Lily or my sister. As the evening progressed, I learned that Grace was 32, had moved to the city 3 years ago for her job, and was having dinner alone because she'd been stood up by a friend. Her loss is my gain, I said, then felt my face heat at the forwardness of the comment. Grace just smiled. I was thinking the same thing. When the check came, I insisted on paying for both our meals despite her protests. You rescued me from the most humiliating date of my life. It's the least I can do. Outside the restaurant, standing under the glow of a streetlight, I found myself reluctant to say goodbye. Thank you again for tonight. It was unexpected. The best things usually are, she replied, pulling her jacket tighter against the evening chill. I took a deep breath. I know this is forward, but would you like to get coffee sometime? Or maybe ice cream? Lily knows all the best flavors at the shop near our apartment. Grace's smile widened. I'd like that. Both the coffee and meeting your ice cream consultant. We exchanged numbers, and as I watched her walk toward the parking lot, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, a flutter of possibility, a sense that maybe there was room in our lives for something new. The coffee date turned into a walk in the park, which turned into dinner at my place where Grace charmed Lily by knowing all the words to "Let It Go" and showing her how to make paper airplanes that actually flew. Before I knew it, Grace had become a regular presence in our lives, helping Lily with her reading, joining us for movie nights, bringing over homemade cookies that weren't quite right but that we ate anyway. She's not like Mommy, Lily observed one night as I tucked her in, but I like her anyway. My throat tightened. Is that okay? That she's different from Mommy? Lily considered this with the seriousness only children can bring to philosophical questions. Mommy's in heaven. Grace is here. I think we need people who are here. Out of the mouths of babes. Our relationship wasn't without challenges. Grace had never dated someone with a child before, and there were adjustments, canceled plans when Lily got sick, conversations interrupted by a 5-year-old's urgent need to show us a new drawing, the complexity of explaining to Lily what it meant that Daddy and Grace were more than friends. 6 months in, we hit our first major hurdle. Grace was offered a promotion that would require more travel, a week away each month. She came to me, conflicted. I want this job, she admitted. But I also want this, us. I don't know if I can have both. I remembered Melissa's accusation, that I was looking for someone to fit into a predetermined role in our lives. I didn't want to make the same mistake with Grace. Take the job, I told her. We'll figure it out. Relationships are about supporting each other's dreams, not just fitting into each other's lives. The look of relief and love on her face told me I'd made the right choice. We adapted, FaceTime calls when she was away, special weekends when she returned, a new rhythm that worked for all of us. A year after that fateful night at the restaurant, I took Grace back to the same place. We requested the same tables, mine with the wine stain, which had long since been replaced, and hers where she'd invited me to sit. Do you remember what you said to me that night? I asked as we finished dessert. Something about a crime scene, she laughed. You said, why don't you sit here instead? I reached across the table for her hand. It was the simplest invitation, but it changed everything. Grace squeezed my fingers. Best impulse decision I ever made. I took a deep breath. I'm hoping you'll make another one. I pulled a small box from my pocket and moved to kneel beside her chair. Grace, you didn't just offer me a clean tablecloth that night. You offered me and Lily a new beginning. Will you marry me? Her eyes filled with tears as she nodded, unable to speak. When she finally found her voice, she said, yes. 1,000 times, yes. As I slipped the ring onto her finger, a simple sapphire that reminded me of her eyes, the restaurant erupted in applause. The same waiter who had witnessed my disastrous date was now bringing champagne, beaming as if he'd personally orchestrated our entire relationship. Later that night, after we'd called our families and celebrated, Grace and I sat on my couch, her head on my shoulder. You know, she said quietly, when I saw you that night, sitting alone at that table with wine everywhere, you looked so dignified in your defeat. Most men would have been angry or embarrassed, but you just seemed sad. I couldn't not say something. I'm glad you did, I murmured into her hair. Though I'm still not sure what you saw in the wine-stained guy with the emotional baggage. Grace sat up, her expression serious. Don't ever say that again. What I saw was a father who loved his daughter enough to be honest about her importance in his life. I saw someone who deserved better than what he was getting. And selfishly, I saw someone I wanted to know. I pulled her close again, overwhelmed by gratitude for this woman who had seen value in me when I'd felt most rejected. Our wedding was small, just family and close friends gathered in my sister's backyard. Lily, serving as flower girl and self-appointed wedding planner, had insisted on blue flowers, because they matched Grace's eyes, and chocolate cake, because everybody likes chocolate. As Grace walked toward me in a simple white dress, her curls adorned with tiny blue flowers, I felt a sense of completion I hadn't thought possible after Sarah died. Not because Grace replaced what I'd lost, but because she helped create something entirely new. In her vows, Grace spoke directly to Lily as well as to me. I promised to love your daddy with my whole heart, to always have ice cream in the freezer, and to never try to take your mommy's place, only to make my own place in your family, if you'll let me. Lily, standing between us in her blue dress, reached up to take both our hands. We're a triangle now, she announced. That's the strongest shape. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Life as a blended family had its challenges. Grace's travel schedule sometimes created stress. Lily went through a phase of testing boundaries, especially with Grace. There were arguments about discipline approaches, about how much of Sarah's presence we should maintain in our home, about when and if we might want to have another child. But there were beautiful moments too, Grace and Lily developing their own traditions, like Sunday morning pancakes with faces made of fruit. The first time Lily called Grace, my Grace, instead of Daddy's Grace. The day we moved into a new house together, one that had no memories of Sarah but had a special shelf for her photos. 2 years into our marriage, Grace's travel increased again. She was excelling in her career, but the time apart was taking a toll. After a particularly difficult month of solo parenting during flu season, I found myself resentful and exhausted. Maybe you should consider a position with less travel, I suggested one night after Lily was asleep. Grace's expression hardened. Would you be making that suggestion if I were a man? The question caught me off guard. This isn't about gender. It's about our family needing you here. And my career doesn't matter? Her voice was tight with hurt. I didn't say that. I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. I'm just tired of doing this alone. You're not alone, she said quietly. You have me. Just not physically present every single day. We went to bed angry that night, the first time in our marriage. The next morning, I found Grace at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers. What's all this? I asked cautiously. Options, she replied. I've been thinking about this for a while. There's a position opening in the local office. Less prestige, slightly less money, but no travel. I sat across from her. I don't want you to resent me for holding you back. And I don't want you to resent me for not being here. She reached for my hand. But here's what I realized at 3 a.m., this isn't about either of us sacrificing. It's about finding a third option that works for our family. We talked for hours.